Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I have my friend here, talented filmmaker, producer, director, actor, Eric Tomj. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey dude, what's up?
Nothing much, man. It's been a while since we last spoke. How's everything going, man? A lot has changed so far with lockdowns and restrictions.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. It's going okay. I mean, it's weird times once again. We're back in the similar spot to where we were last year. How are you doing?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, thank you for asking. It's been kind of interesting, man. Productions getting canceled, and then now it's delayed, and you just got to like figure out when the next time you can resume. It's already hard enough before the pandemic or before these circumstances to get everybody on board, in the right setting and just agreeing on a time. And I'm sure you can relate to all these things that I'm saying, because it's just the pandemic didn't help, and this third wave, for those that know, we live in Ontario and Canada, and we're experiencing a third wave right now. And everyone's going through it. This is what I mean by everyone's getting affected. And it's kind of, I don't want to get trapped into a sense of complaining, like, oh, look at our lives, whatever, because everybody's trying to figure it out. But as creative individuals, I just feel it's so imperative that we get out there eventually, and we just express as much as we can, from what we learned, from what we gained in the pandemic, and just going forward, just being in touch with that a creative itch, and scratching it. What are your feelings towards this? What I was saying about the need for that, scratching the itch and creative expression.
I agree. I think you need to scratch that itch. It's something that, all creatives, it's like you need to create if you're creative,
Of course.
that's sort of what drives you, that sort of title as like a creative person, that really is an essential part of your sort of your well-being in your life, and to not be able to sort of not be able to create or like sort of half create kind of, like it's really disappointing right now.
Yeah, of course, man. Have any of your projects been delayed or canceled? Have you experienced anything like that?
I have, yeah. So I was supposed to shoot last weekend, and
Okay.
that was pushed indefinitely. I was supposed to produce. I'm a producer on that, and then
Right.
I was shooting sort of throughout the first part of April as an actor,
Okay.
and and then it sort of just got shut down, like just a couple like
Any?
just
Oh,
towards the
yeah.
a week ago, yeah.
Oh,
So
okay. In the middle production, or you guys were about to wrap up and it's just now?
it's like 90% done, I'd say.
Right.
You
Right.
got to go back to a couple things, but I mean,
Yeah.
enough that you can sort of start editing it. You know what I mean? During like,
Oh, okay, good. Oh, there's some material they can at least work with. But yeah, if you're OCD like myself, and I'm sure Eric can admit to this, you rather have the whole project done. You don't want to be editing and then you're like, where's the middle or the beginning or the ending of the project? We need that in order to continue, right? Because eventually they're gonna be done editing, and they got to figure out, where do we how do we fill up that gap? And that's why I wanted to ask you, like, what's going on with this project? Is there a date in mind, or like, is it up in the air? No one knows what's happening.
dude, it's up. Most of these things are up in the air with the distribution right now because of
Yeah.
the festivals are so unclear about whether or not some of them. One of the films that I'm working on is sort
Hmm.
of going to go the like online festival route if things aren't open,
Hmm.
and that's a little bit clear because online festivals sort of they stick to their dates no matter what happens, right?
Right.
So like, even if we're in a lockdown, they're still going to have an online film festival, right? But the other film that I'm doing where they want to sort of like see if they can get it in a festival, with people or like on some screens, that's we have no clue when, there's no timeline for that, right? Because we just
Yeah.
really don't know when things are going to be back up.
Are you trying to get it? Is it because you're trying to get it like an in-person screening? Like, you want that authenticity of going to the movies and, having, deservedly so, right? Because I've seen, so far your content, I've seen what you put out, and we've done podcasts before, explaining about man versus food and long, long time.
Exactly.
So I can only imagine, the between the passion, the effort, being put into play, and also considering all the people on board, right? Like the production crew, the cast. It's also rewarding for them to have that experience.
That's a great.
So Yeah. Is that something that that kind of bothers you in a way where it's like, even if you have to go the online route, you're not too crazy about it?
I'm not too crazy about the online route, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, because the whole thing about the film festivals and putting your film into a like the
Hmm.
film festival circuit is like, is that that's where you make your network, right? You know, if you're an art director and
100%.
you did a great job doing an art directing on a film and you go to a film festival and you hand your card out to everyone and they see you did an incredible job, that's sort of how you compound your networking. You know, it's similar to the way we met at, you know, the Rain
Exactly.
Festival,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Exactly that. And my experience, my setback, you've seen Beautiful, my short film that I made during the, uh,
Love
in the
that.
midst of the pandemic. Thank you. Yeah, but it's a mini one, right? It's about a minute or two, but still has a story for those of you that, think that you need to tell 5 20 minute feature film length stories can be told in any amount of time. It just depends how creative you are and how ambitious you are to make that story happen. And what I'm trying to get at is with this film, I'm very honored. I'm very grateful that it's been getting festival attention. I call it a world tour because festivals have been emailing me from Italy, from New York, from Tokyo, from South Korea. And like I said, it's a huge honor, but there's a part of me that it's like, I'm not going to fly to South Korea. But the one in LA, for example, that was the first festival they reached out. They were in LA, California, Los Angeles, and I ended up winning an honorable mention. And I'm saying to myself, if things were normal, I could see myself flying out for the weekend, watching the movie, talking to people in the industry. That's the perfect place. And I couldn't
Absolutely.
do that because it was online. And that just it always kind of bugged me in a way. Obviously, it's not the festival's fault. It's not really anyone's fault. It's the virus's fault. But the virus isn't a person. Can't blame him or her or whatever. What am I talking about? But the virus, it is what it is. It's the circumstances we're in. That's what I was saying at the beginning of the conversation. Is you have to just kind of go with it, right, man?
Yeah, and you
Um,
sort of owe it to everyone, dude. Like that's the way I think about it
yeah,
too. Like when I first started off, I was sort of like, do I want to show this or do I not want to show this or like this or this until my film started to get better at the start, you know. And now it's
exactly.
like you owe it to all those people who work so hard on it to get it out to as many people as possible because it helps everyone, you know. So
100%, man. Yeah. And like you said, that's the platform. It's so essential. And that's why I love talking to you is because you're very real. Like when we first spoke, you weren't like, those artsy guys, oh, I just want to make movies and whatever. You understood that you're very aware there's a business side to it. And you have to have an acumen. You have to understand that as much as we want to be creative, as much as we want to be artistic, you have to draw the line. There's budgets involved. There needs to be a profit in some circumstances. There's need to be funding. How do you get the funding? So I respected that because it's true. It's the reality. And we learn off each other, and that's something I learned from you from the beginning. Is keep that in mind and take that serious. So what I'm trying to get at is with regards to the festivals, I can understand why networking would be such an asset. It's served both of us, at Rain Dance. I would have never have met you. Maybe we would have crossed paths at a festival in Toronto, perhaps, but that's all speculation. We don't know what could have happened. So I'm very grateful for that experience. But if we don't get back to the same way things were before, like normal, we could ultimately suffer as creatives, and that's something that I dread. I don't want to be too pessimistic on this conversation, but these are important matters. These are something that kind of just the uncertain times kind of bother me at night. Like for example, that production I was explaining earlier that I was trying to do,
yeah. So
obviously it
tell
was
me about that.
canceled.
So you were
Yeah,
you were
thank you.
going
Yeah.
into production, right, on a film. Tell us about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. So I was going into production on a film, and the new restrictions came in, with that whole crap about pulling over, where are you going? Well, they want to know if you're an essential person.
So how long before shooting was that those restrictions came in for you?
Yeah, so we were ready to go. So you know how production works, right? And I was a co-producer on this as well, not only a director and a cinematographer. So there was a lot on my plate. But going into production, this happened literally about a day or two before,
Mm.
and it was something that we just had to quickly think on our feet and say, listen, I want to do as much as I want to do this, right? I was looking out for the team, and so was my co-producer. We need to also look out for everyone else involved. Last thing we want is for them to get in trouble, for them to get fined. Not that they would. I don't think it would be that bad. But again, when Ford made that announcement, we didn't know what to expect. The media industries is considered essential in Ontario, for those that don't know. However, we're living in unpredictable times. We're living in times where people are getting pulled over, people are getting fined for just grabbing some fresh air, and I see it all the time. And again, I had to, me and my co-producer, we made that executive decision, like for the sake of everyone's safety, and with these new restrictions, let's just like hold off. What bothered me though is that the next day, Ford went back on his restrictions and started saying, we shouldn't have implemented them. I apologize. Kids can go to playgrounds. And that's fine. Again, like everyone's all over the place. But what bothers me is he went back on his word, because not only does that take away his credibility, but it pisses a lot of people off, quite frankly. And it pisses a lot of people that are in situations like ourselves, where we're waiting this whole time. We understand how much time, effort, energy it takes. Like I said, even before the pandemic, just to get people on board to agree on a time and date
Right.
and have them, sign a retainer or just sign a non-disclosure agreement, just have everything work out on that day. And then, like I said, he made that announcement, and then it bothers me because I'm saying to myself, if you're gonna make a decision and stand by it. Don't apologize the next day, because what happens is that threw everyone off. It made everyone feel like, oh, like we cancel it too soon.
Right.
So I guess as a co-producer and as a director, I should say, you learn to be a leader, and you kind of comfort people and say, listen, these are unpredictable, unprecedented times, I should say. And these are times that we need to kind of wrap our heads around, and do what is right, and also that
Right.
serves the safety of everyone else, right? We can't just rush into it. And I'm a firm believer that when it comes to like anything creative or art, I'm the kind of guy saying you can't rush art. Like I believe that you can't
Right.
like just do it for the sake of doing it. And you and I both know, like when you go on a set, if that person can't do it or that person can't make it, you can't find, like if that person, for example, is a sound, right? You can't just, pick someone else off the street. If you had a sound guy that could do it, but he changed date because of emergency, whatever reason, and you really need that sound guy, I'm the kind of guy where it's like, let's figure out what he needs or work around that, because I think it's so important that you don't do it just to do it for the sake of doing it. So on that note, I just wanted to say, like, restrictions I wasn't too crazy about. I wish it was handled much better. I'm sure the whole province can agree. But what are you
So
going to do?
wait, wait. So you guys were when Ford set in the restrictions, were you guys like you guys were ready to go? You just said you had everything
Yeah.
down and all that. So like how long did it take for you guys to pull the plug? Was it like, oh, right away, I guess we can't do it, or was there sort of debate? Like walk me through like how that
Yeah.
works.
Okay. So, yeah, I'll give you some detail actually. Yeah. So basically, what happened was we were planning this around mid to late March. Right. And then, so what it is we were trying to get this production going. We were securing gaffers and makeup artists and things like that. And the only thing that was missing, the most critical thing, was the sound guy. And luckily for me, I had contact from my previous project, and we secured it basically, I would say, the week before shooting. So we were really fortunate that way. But when the pandemic, when the third wave was announced and the first initial lockdown restrictions, I had to kind of bring it up, be that guy like, hey, did you hear the lockdown? Hear what's going on? And, again, my co-producer was very understanding, but at the same time, we secured the location, we secured the people, and we wanted to do it. But we agreed we would have safety protocols, COVID protocols. So we developed
Right.
the screening form, right? We grabbed the screening form.
Absolutely.
We had, hand sanitizers on site. I was going to bring those, and masks and things like that. So just following protocols, and credit to you as well when I reached out to you, because you always been a good friend that way, saying if you ever need someone to help you out on set. That was the first when you replied back saying, what are the safety measures with the COVID. I haven't been on a set in like probably close to a year, that I forgot that there's now even more of a protocol you need to follow, um, as opposed to like when it was a summer, in cases where like 100 or 200 a day.
Yeah.
And we were also shooting outside. But what I'm saying is that that's the benefit of knowing someone that is in the business, right? So when I heard that, I developed a screening form and did all those safety protocols. But again, we weren't gonna cancel. We weren't gonna delay it, because in my heart, I wanted to do it. I didn't want to put it off also, because I have other projects that I have committed to, and that pushes everything forward, right? So it's kind of like, let's just
Right.
kill it. Let's just do it, right?
Right.
Another week goes by, right? Now we're approaching 2 weeks before production. or a week before, roughly around that time. And then the cases start now they're really like increasing. Now it's like 3, 4,000. And I was like, now they're saying projections like 18,000 a day by the end of May.
Right.
And, I struggle with this pandemic in a way because I'm not living on my own. I'm currently with my family. So
Right.
I have to keep that in mind, right? And it's something that I have to discuss with people. Like at first, like friends didn't really understand, and I had to put my foot down and say, "No, you don't understand. Like my mother, like she has pre-existing medical conditions, and I can't afford." Even our doctor told us just recently, like you should be going to work and coming home. You shouldn't even be going to work, but the fact that you have to go to work is because she's an essential worker.
Mm.
Like her immune system, like would be compromised, and we can't afford that. And I don't want to be responsible for that. So that's what I'm saying is all these different things were playing in my head. As much as I wanted to do it, I also wanted to take that into consideration. But nevertheless, I still said, don't worry about it. I'm just going to double mask it, follow protocols, whatever.
Yeah.
And what happened is that eventually, everything's, the ball's rolling. We got everything on board. Again, thanks to my co-producer. And then we reach Friday, and then they say these announcements, and he announced it on like 4 o'clock, and I heard it, but I didn't really react to it because I said, not far from the location. Uh, I'm not worried about a cop. Media industries are essential.
Yeah.
We have the paperwork. We even had the paperwork for the location being essential.
Right.
So everything was in the bag. So we were like, okay. And then what it was is that, my co-producer, when he gave me that call, this wasn't until late at night, probably like 8 or 9, a few
Okay.
hours later, I should say.
Yeah.
That's when it was like, okay, now we have to have a conversation because, again, that scare, right? He was saying things like they're going to pull you over. And if you're with someone that doesn't have the same license, you'll be charged 750, 800. And I feel for those people because a lot of the people that I collaborate with, I'm sure you know as well, they don't have that opportunity to be at home. Maybe they're paying rent. Maybe they have a bunch of finances to pay for, right? So again, this is what I mean by being empathetic. Um, when you're a director, when you're a co-producer, you should respect your crew, cast and crew, and what their concerns are.
Right.
And when we had that conversation, we just kind of decided, um, let's just like call it off and see how it resumes. And I just wanted to add that, you know, as time passed, I still wanted to postpone. Like I'm aiming for like June, like closer to the summer. And the reason being is because it's unpredictable. I don't know between the cases and between these restrictions. Like they've already proven that there's just there's a lack of certainty. Like you have no idea what's happening.
Right.
So to be safe, what I'm saying is instead of booking it like the following week or next week,
Okay.
in
Yeah.
2 weeks, you know what I mean, man? It's like let's book it in a month or two and then see like what happens because I still don't know. I can't even pinpoint what's happening. And I
Mm.
want to know and I want to know from yourself, like, is that a similar story, like what happened with you with this production that you were acting in specifically? Because I remember you were talking about how it was like a feature film and it was like a month you had to pretty much show up every day.
Yeah, man. Uh,
Yeah.
it was that was we got through that pretty much, and it was just sort of the Ford stuff hit right at the end. To be honest with you, that one wasn't too bad. We sort of got through a good chunk of that before the ending.
Things got
The
crazy.
other
Yeah.
film that I was producing got it's a similar situation to your film, man. Like
Yeah.
it's we're gonna push it, and we're not gonna push it like a couple weeks. It's gonna be like a sometime in June maybe, or like you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
6 8 weeks, like something like that. And it's sort of pushed sort of indefinitely until we get a better handle on the COVID situation, because like it doesn't seem like we have a handle on it, and it also seems like we have no idea which way this is going to go, so it's hard to make
Yeah.
plans right now, so it's like
And you don't want to rush it, right? Like
yeah,
you
man,
want to, yeah.
you don't want to jump into something and like be
Yeah.
like, and you also don't want to make plans again, like, and then have to like dismantle for a second time, which is like completely demoralizing. It's already sort of momentum crushing when you have to put it down the first time.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
So it's like, you know,
It's like, what are you gonna do, right? But what I wanted to know, like, was it an abrupt stop, with these kind of productions, or was it kind of gradual? Like you saw it coming, and was it a mutual agreement, or was it one of those like people were just kind of falling out?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was not an abrupt stop, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Not until it sort of was like we were really keeping an eye on it, and it sort of the shooting schedule started to get more and more condensed. It was like if we can shoot more, we sort of saw it coming, but there
Yeah,
wasn't like a hard like, okay, Ford put it in, we're done. You know what I mean? It
yeah,
was like, okay, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Let's shoot more as much as we can. You know what I
yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And then it was sort of like, okay, it seems like now we have to sort of stop, you know?
Very similar to my story. It's like I was planting the seeds, as I like to say.
Yeah.
We're in a third wave. Okay, we're in a lockdown now. Okay, cases are rising. And then when he said that announcement, I was just like, I didn't even say anything. I was the opposite actually. I was just like, you know what? Let's just go in full force. I was ready to double mask it, whatever. And that's what I mean by like it was the tables return, and I heard concerns about the fines and the cops being pulled over, and I just thought that was poorly handled. I thought that was bullshit. And again, if you're gonna make that announcement, that's fine, but stick by it. Don't the next day insult everybody, insult the people that are trying their best to make a living or trying their best to just fucking keep sane, man, for God's sakes, and say it was a mistake to make that. Like, why you threw off so many productions, um, and so many other matters that are more serious. Let's be honest. So yeah, that's just my little distressor. But what are you gonna do? Like I said, man, there's more serious things, and the good news is that we live another day, and we have the opportunity to still pursue our passions, and it's never over until we say it's over, and that's kind of like my attitude going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we're in an incredibly privileged position
one Hundred percent.
to be able to postpone these things, like you don't have a like a loan down, for the film. You haven't,
Yeah,
you don't have a drop dead payment date you have to make. You haven't put a ton of money down,
one hundred
on
percent.
like stuff, you make you don't have production insurance, like a film gets put if you're doing a big movie and it gets pushed and you got production insurance, that's a producer's nightmare, man. Are you kidding me? Like,
Oh yeah,
oof,
that's why Tom Cruise had a panic attack, right?
literally, like the guy, like that. You hear producer Tom Cruise in that. You don't hear like it's like the producer in him, like really starting to freak out a bit. Like so.
I
Yeah,
laugh because when that incident happened, I don't know too many producers. Like we're all producers in the sense that we're aspiring, we're trying to make it, so we have to kind of take on the role.
right,
But what I'm saying is like someone like yourself that actually has been on sets or been on films where you're the producer, like the sole producer, credit to
right.
your hat,
Yeah,
right? So
I
what I'm
got
saying is that, yeah, right, love the hat. This guy literally wears all hats on set. But yeah, what happened with Tom Cruise, I was laughing with somebody, some actors, directors, and it's kind of interesting in a way because you get a different insight on their perspective. And the
right.
actors are like, oh, he's being too tough, and he's just tell me once, you don't have to tell me again, like, you don't have to like make a scene. And the directors are like, but if people aren't following protocols, like I can see why he's like that. And then you ask the producer, someone like yourself, that's what I was dying to ask you, and you're like, yeah, I could see it happening. And I knew in your eyes, I knew from that response, I'm like, he probably was like, yeah, for Tom Cruise to react like that, I only can imagine like what kind of a nightmare is going on. Because he said it in that tape, man, right? When he went on that rant about being a producer, and he was like, people, you guys are fortunate, you guys are lucky to be in the working, and there's people like that wish they had this job. And he understands like the dire situation that the studio and pretty much Hollywood is in right now. Things getting shut down left and right. Can't film here, can't film there.
Look, like I heard that and I totally was like, all right, like you can't like look at that's a huge movie, that's
Yeah,
two
yeah,
movies together. That's like a, $250 million tentpole film that's got moved several times now, that's now had to do the COVID protocols, that's like, you know, now and like he's got to put millions of dollars worth of COVID stuff that they all have to try and follow. And if they don't follow it, they're screwed because they get shut down. A lot of people think films are like paid for by the studio, but the studio doesn't have the capital to pay for a movie. So there's a loan on a film, which
right.
means the return needs to happen. If there's product placement in the film, that has a deadline to it,
Of
like
course, yeah.
so they got to get this thing done, and they lose like the clock is ticking on a big film like that. Minutes are money, man. Like every hour, every minute, every hour, it's you're losing money so quickly. It's ridiculous, right?
100%. Yeah.
And I totally get it, man. Like, I hear him, the guy whose movie's being, pushed, being screwed with, and they've put in all these protocols, and he's just trying to finish the movie and make everybody safe and not get in trouble and not get anybody sick. And these people can't even do the due diligence to follow the
Yeah.
most basic protocols.
Or
And
give
he's
the
just so
respect.
done,
Yeah, exactly. Give the respect of, the set and your fellow crew and the people that are concerned. Because let's be honest, this pandemic has proven there are those that believe in it, there are those that don't, there are those that are overly concerned. And if you're a decent human being, my whole thing is, put on a mask, go inside, take it off when you're outside. That's understandable. And that's it. Like, follow the rules. Like, I don't understand why everyone feels the need to be special or feel like they are special. You're not. The universe doesn't care about you. Wear the mask and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, we're all in this together, as cheesy as, or as many times as you've heard it. And that's just my attitude to it. And I get firm about it because I'm saying, like, you see these videos all the time. I don't you can't tell me to wear a mask. It's my freedom. I'm like, they're not telling you to wear a mask always. They're telling you to wear a mask in their private business that they're serving to customers, that they have to make money, to pay off a mortgage, to pay off a lease, to pay off, a loan, like you were saying. And it's like, I just don't understand why there's so much lack of empathy. And, not to go off tangent, but that's just kind of like my opinion of the whole matter is, I get it. We're in times that we never predicted. We're in times that, we would never thought we would experience ever in our lifetime because we had it good. We were the privileged generation, but now we're taking it overboard where we're not really understanding uh, that people are dying. Just the other day, I heard a 13-year-old girl die. And it just, my heart, like, I felt for her because I'm saying to myself, like, I have a bad day or I have like moments and situations where I say to, like, I'm 26 and I have my hopes and dreams. And I say it countless times on this podcast. Eric knows it about, being like a Tarantino and whatever. And I'm saying to myself, what were her hopes and dreams? Like, what did she want to do? What did she have yet to discover? And it just breaks my heart because I say to myself, if we just took it a little bit more serious, I don't know if that life could have been saved. So that's just my opinion about it.
Yeah.
It's crazy time, man. And what are your thoughts on this whole thing, the whole thing about the masks and stuff?
Yeah, man. I mean, you gotta wear your mask. Like, it's a the interesting thing about this is it takes a communal effort to curb this, which is
Yeah,
such an interesting thing that doesn't happen very often. Global threats are not usually, well, actually, who am I to say? But like, you know, when is the last time you faced a global communal threat? Like they only come
yeah,
along every once in a while.
for sure.
And people need to do their part. And it's like a courtesy thing. I see it as a courtesy thing.
Yeah,
It's like
100%. And
I like
that's what I mean. Sorry, go ahead, man.
no, it's just like the mask. I always sort of used to be like, why would you wear a mask? Like it doesn't make sense. Like before the pandemic.
Of course, yeah.
And then when the pandemic happened, obviously you wore a mask. And I like when I learned that like the mask is less about you and it's more about like you not spreading things to other people.
Yeah.
And it's less about saving you and more about like it takes both sides for it to be effective, right? Like if you're putting on a mask to stop people catching what you have, you need the other person to wear a mask so you don't catch what they have too. And
Yeah.
you need both sides for that equation to work, right?
And there's so much added stress for no reason, all because of ego, right? Let's be honest. The fact that, why do I have to wear a mask and this and that? And it's like, there's just so much wasted energy, in my opinion. Like you said, it's a courtesy thing. And you don't know, like, how much you're affecting someone else's life, or maybe, you don't know their situation. Like, what if they have a relative at home that's, sick already and they can't really afford, you don't know if you're carrying it, because that whole asymptomatic situation like freaked me the hell out. But when I heard that, actually, that's when I started buying into the mask, because I said to myself, why would you wear a mask if you're not sick or if you don't have symptoms? Like, I don't get it. Like, we're just wearing masks now. And then when I heard about the whole asymptomatic, I was like, okay, that's scary. Because Idris Elba, actually, speaking of actors, uh, he was one of the first to like post on his Instagram. I remember, or he did a video and he said, it's true, you could be asymptomatic. I just got tested, COVID positive, and I feel fine. Like, he was healthy as a horse, and he was just, giving this speech.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, like, asymptomatic is true, man. Like, it exists. So Anyway, but enough about that. You know, it's kind of like it's been talked to death, and everybody I'm sure is tired of it. But you know, those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on, you know, how things are, and I just feel like I get it. We're all tired, but we're in this situation, and we're in this situation together, whether you like it or not. And if you're really paying attention closely, there's going to be another pandemic, and they say it's going to be very soon for how we're treating the earth. So I just saying is like, you know, sometimes the truth hurts, you know, but we just got to be aware and prepared.
Oof. Well, that's yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know it's a heavy
It's
stuff,
heavy,
but
man. It's heavy
I
stuff.
know, but it's no, it's just something that like I just hear. I had to get it off my chest. I just hear it a lot, and you know, it's not to be pessimistic, but at the end of the day, man, it's just they're real things, man. Like we just have to take into consideration. And back to the Tom Cruise thing, I just want to say one last thing. You know, whether you don't have to be in finance, you don't have to be a creative, you don't have to be a director. It's kind of like just understanding that situation. Like I understand being in a moment where you're trying your best to make something happen, you're putting all your effort in, and like you said, you know, time is money, and we see it, we experience it ourselves, where you want everything to work out, and things obviously don't work out, so you have to adjust and whatever. But if you can prevent it, if things are avoidable, you know what I mean, about like you said, doing the due diligence,
Yeah,
then you should follow through, right? But yeah.
yeah, man. I agree.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Anyway, I want to get into you know, about artists, you know, especially with this pandemic and everything, like it's uncertain times. And, you know, a big question that we kind of go through is the ability to stay relevant and creative, you know, while we're forced in isolation. That's
Yeah,
something that's been pondering on my mind, and same, you know, I'm sure for yourself, I can only imagine, right? Um, but I want to know, like, how do you intend to stay creative until like productions resume, like during this kind of awkward time?
yeah. It's a really hard thing, you know. I really like. It's a struggle for everyone, you know, and it's a
Hmm.
struggle for me too. And I think like I it's very challenging for me because I'm a very sort of deadline oriented person, you know. Like the structure of my life is deadlines, you know. Like
Yeah,
if I know I got to shoot in 6 weeks, my hustle is on point, right? You know,
yeah,
like
yeah. Of course.
like my trip, like I'm doing everything I need to do. I'm in rehearsal. If I'm training for a movie, I'm hitting the gym. Eating healthy. Like if I'm directing, I'm storyboard. Like I'm all in. I just need a
Yep.
deadline, right?
Yep.
Without a deadline, it's like where do you focus your energy when you have no idea? Like it's like this whole different idea of like prolonged focus. You know what I mean? Like, for me, it's like I do like a 6 week, like intense,
Yeah,
thing. I
yeah.
like get super intense about it, and then I crash when I'm done, right? And this is sort of asking you to sort of like do a bit every day and just be consistent. And you don't know, but you'll be ready when it
Yeah.
does. You know what I mean?
Nothing to
And it's
work
like,
towards. Yeah, nothing to
right,
work towards. Yeah. You make actually an interesting point, like very valid point actually. As much as I want to just kind of debunk a myth about creatives is we're
yeah,
not all, you know, just kind of free spirited, take life as it comes and whatever. That's why you and I click, is because we're very similar that way. Is we're very creative. We're artistic at heart. We love movies to death, but
right,
we're very structured. We're very organized, and we're strategic. We take risks, but there's some calculation behind it. We don't know it's not gonna be guaranteed, but we put in the we prepare, right? We don't just show up. And you said a very good point about that, is because I've been thinking about this too, where, you know, you see me with this podcast, the vlogs, my
yeah,
artworks. I just try my best to stay creative, right, with these outlets. But at the end of the day, man, when that production got canceled on me, I'll be honest, I was going into a lull again. That
right,
COVID, I call it COVID fatigue, where it's like, what am I working towards?
right,
Like,
yeah,
what is this? You know what I mean?
exactly,
Like, when I was working towards the production, yeah, I was nervous because
right,
like I didn't know what was happening, what was coming next. But there was a part of me that was like, okay, I'm back. Like I feel good. Like we're working towards this. You know, we're gonna do it, whatever. And then when it just got pulled from me, it was a sign. It was a bit of relief in the sense that it's like, okay, I'm safe, whatever. But then when I found out all the nonsense with the restrictions, you know, they shouldn't have done this and they took them back. I said, what's happening? Like, what or are we in this? Like, what are we in this for anymore? Like, like how is it? If they're not taking it serious, how am I supposed to take it serious? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
now we're in a predicament, like you said yourself, where you kind of don't know how to. You're trying to stay creative. Like, I know you write. Is that it? Are you still continuing writing, both kind of journaling and creative?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's the structure. It's like trying to
Yeah,
structure. I know you're a structured guy. We have
yeah,
these,
yeah.
we do these the Zoom, podcast things. Every time you send me a time, and like we hit exactly that time, and it's for like it's really structured, right? Because that's how we both
Yeah.
sort of like to think like that, right? And it's
And
like it's about the structure, I guess. Like that's what I'm trying is just to keep some form of like regime, like you got this at this time and this at this time and you got to do this and you got to keep sort of moving.
like a
A big
routine,
thing for
yeah.
me is the gym, to be quite honest with you. I know it
Oh,
sounds like
okay,
it's a bit
cool. Yeah,
counterintuitive
yeah.
home stuff, right? But like
Yeah, tell me about it.
like I was training for that that film and all that, and like I find like getting up and going, I built a bit of a gym in my garage, right? And it's like I
Nice.
just trying to train every day with the goal in mind of being better.
Yeah,
You know what I
of
mean?
course. Something to work towards. Exactly.
Well, yeah, and the idea that like when the time comes to present this on the camera for something else, whatever that
Yeah,
would
I know
be,
what you mean. The payoff. You're working towards this payoff, that some sort of reward, delayed gratification whenever it would come, but it's kind of like you're not just working out, like work out for your health. I know, like pretty active guy, but I know the amount of stress you put on yourself, like to eat a certain way and work out. Since we spoke back in October
yeah,
2020, we first spoke. I was on my own path. You were gaining weight, I was losing weight.
absolutely.
And what I'm just saying is like I can understand exactly what you mean. Is you're doing this for the role. No one wants to like not eat California sandwiches. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you wanna you wanna just indulge and splurge, but you can't because you're doing this for a role. But if that role gets taken away, or that production,
Right.
because of
You're
a
like, why
random
am I doing this for?
restriction,
Yeah.
what is the point? Of course you're gonna be in a situation where you feel like crap.
I just keep trying to think like, you know, I'm just like, I'm gonna work to be better. If I
Yeah,
can keep getting better, I don't know when I'm gonna get a chance to present it, but when the time
exactly.
comes, I will be ready. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and like that's sort of what I try and hold on to. It's the same thing with the films and whatnot, like trying to, with these productions, just trying to make sure things are in order. And that's like the idea that I don't know when I'm gonna do this, but like I sure as hell I'm gonna be prepared when it's time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then
And
I'm
that's the
gonna
best we could do. Yeah. Just wanted
what about
to
you?
throw that in. Yeah.
What do you think? Like, what are you doing? I know you're doing the podcast and all that. Like, are you writing again? Are you working on other stuff? Like, where's your head at?
Yeah, so glad you asked. So basically, like I said, the podcast is probably one of my favorite things to do. Not only do I get to have some human contact,
Right,
but I get to catch up with my friends, and it's a great form of networking as well with other creatives.
right,
Made a lot of new friends, but at the same time, for my own kind of personal projects, I've been doing a lot more journaling to enhance my writing and reading. I always, I'm a writer at heart, a storyteller at heart. Before I touched the camera, I was always writing. So I think it's something that I need to develop and constantly keep
right.
building upon.
Yeah,
So I take it very serious, like writing and reading. And I have a sense of pride in coming across like articulate, or just hearing like someone speak eloquently.
right.
Like watching The Social Network the other night with my family. Like there's something about like it just turns me on, like the way the characters speak, like the dialogue. Like I am the kind of guy where I rather it sound better. You know what I mean? Like the writing. I rather the writing be like that's why I say story number one, and then the sound can come second. Like the
Right.
writing is so amazing. The director obviously has to execute it and serve justice to that writing, but I just I'm such a fanatic when it comes to that. That's why I love Tarantino. Right, he considers himself a writer, not even a
Right.
director. He says I'm a writer first.
Yeah.
So that's something that I work towards. Is I'm always trying to enhance my writing, and I'm fortunate enough because I'm actually developing a project right now with a friend,
Cool.
and we're just going through the basics. And yeah, I like today, for instance, I was just before our biweekly call, I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna figure out the notes and go through the characters, and I really proud of myself in a way. I'll be honest. I know a lot of people aren't, audacious enough to say that, but I don't care. Like I really have come a long way with my writing, and that I'm treating it like a Tarantino, where I can understand why he um, writes like everything, like where the character was born, where why, what parents they had, what was the upbringing like, because you just really feel the character. I like using that word a lot. Like, do you feel it?
Right.
When I talk to Eric, I'm like, when you compose that score, when you put that in the film, do you feel the music in order to
Are you
make
a
that?
music guy? Like,
I'm a music
do
guy,
you
man.
play instruments or anything?
I don't play
Is
instruments. Something I
music a thing?
regret. It's not too late. I guess I could pick it up, but I wish I would have picked it up when I was a child, like a guitar or something. But I'm the kind of guy, man. Again, not to blow smoke up my own ass, but
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
Like I scored like the whole short film last year, and I was pretty like even the crew I was working with, like the creators of it that hired me on it, were blown away because they thought it was gonna be like a collaborative kind of thing. Like I'll pick the music, and then they bring a friend to do other pieces, and I'm all the pieces of score that I chose for every scene. Only one of them was tweaked. They approved of, and it couldn't be more happy. So I definitely like would say I have like an ear for music. I can I see where it fits with the scene,
Right.
and yeah, that's just something that, like, back to what you were saying, like you were asking me about music. I don't play an instrument, I don't sing, I don't dance, but I know what music will fit. I'm not always right. It's subjective. Listen to my sister. Why'd you pick that song? It sounds corny. It sounds like, yeah, daunting. But I pick off the majority of people that listen to it, and I always
Yeah.
get pretty much of a good feedback, a positive feedback. Even yourself, you've been really kind. Telling me, like with Beautiful, for example, like the score.
Yeah.
Like you thought it picked, and that's my mission, right? Like when it comes to that, as a filmmaker, is it's synonymous. There's so many songs that I'll listen to, like my dad will show me from the '80s or
Right.
'70s,
Yeah.
whatever he grew up on, and I'll actually pick out the scene in the movie. I heard it. I don't know who sang it. I don't know the name of the song.
Right.
All I know is that the scene from that movie. And I say it to my parents, and they're like, "Holy crap! Like that's so good," because they don't expect me to know that song. They're like, "How do you know
Right.
this song? It came out in like the '70s." Like they expect millennial who doesn't care about those songs.
Right.
No, 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 no. That was, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? That was in Clockwork Orange, or that was in Iron Man
Right.
in this scene, or that was in Social Network at this ending, right? Like the Beatles song, right?
Right.
The ending of the Beatles, like that. You can't always get what you want. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's to me, when I hear that song, I always immediately think of like Mark Zuckerberg, leaning back in his chair, waiting for a girl that he likes to, confirm his Facebook request to be friends. Like that's just where my mind goes. So that's how I kind of like break down music, and I kind of go figure it out for myself. And not to go off tangent, because I know I was talking about being creative, but I guess that's my way of being creative. If you want to talk about music, is just been going through scores, just been kind of going through playlists, on YouTube. Artists. I've been lately getting into Billie Eilish. I think she has a really cool vibe to her. Never was a fan before, I'll be honest,
What'd you
but
think of the James Bond song?
yeah, James Bond song killed it. I was just telling my family today, with the whole Phineas, Billy kind of, like team they got there. Don't be surprised. Either he will or someone will tap him on the shoulder and he'll compose an entire film score
Yeah.
for a movie. Because I feel like he has such an acute uh, like detection for sound. Like he knows exactly how to execute it, and they're cool vibes. It was very beautiful. Like some of the I listened to her lyrics, but I also listened to the music that's constructed, and I know now that it's by Phineas, him and his Logic Pro.
Yeah.
Uh, and I watched like the documentary, for instance, "The World's a Little Blurry" on Apple TV,
Mhm.
and great documentary, man. Highly recommend it. I don't know if you watched it or anyone that hasn't watched it. Just raw filmmaking. It's none of that. They're talking in the camera saying, I always thought I was a fan of Justin Bieber. It's like, no, it's just inner house planted cameras. You just see her, like, get emotional. You see the brother, how he breaks down his songs, how he communicates it with his sister, how he convinces her, what's a
Right.
good song for
Yeah.
the album, right? So that's what I've been kind of doing, I guess, creatively, and just kind of looking at all facets, right? Like just whether it's reading, whether it's writing, whether it's documentaries. Um, I'm just trying to find, I guess, utilize all my resources as
Right.
best as I can, right? To stay inspired, stay creative, right, man?
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So it's a difficult time, man. I'll be honest, because as creatives, we don't. It's already difficult, I should say, from the beginning. Like we don't know if this path is guaranteed. You know what I mean? Or how, or as someone on the podcast once said, how do you define making it? Like, what does that mean to you?
Right. Yeah.
Because it was the first time she kind of like I said, that's when you know you made it. And she's like, well, what do you mean by making it? Because that could be different for everyone else. And I never like in my head or my friends, I always imagine making it like you're famous, you're rich, you're doing what you love. And for someone else, making it is, you get paid to do what you love, or you bought a house, or you have a secure job, or you created a family. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different avenues you could take with that comment. So so it just was a lesson learned kind of thing. And back to the point about being creatives is that we don't know what path we're going to take, and we don't know what's guaranteed about making it. But with this pandemic, it's even more of like a limbo.
Right.
The only thing that I want to say, because I know I keep talking about it, but the only thing I want to say is it's granted me so much opportunity, so many experiences that I don't think I would ever have, and it accelerated all the things that I wanted to do, and even allowed me to discover more. And I want to ask you: has the pandemic done that for you as a creative?
Um, yeah. I mean, I think the pandemic was, it's not ideal, obviously, in any way.
Hmm.
But once you sort of accept the nature of it, that you just accept it, you know, and then you can get to work. I think like I really love downtime like this because it allows you to sort of reform yourself,
Yeah,
and then like when things are over, you're going to get the opportunity to present something new.
yeah,
For me, that's not only with working out, that's with new films, that's with everything. So the downtime is where you like I feel like who I've got this like sort of mindset where it's like whoever, can really grind it out is going to come out on top, like you got
yeah,
to work when nobody's watching, and if we're working away here, you know what I mean? When we come out, we got our better shot. So like
yeah,
but trying to keep that in my head, and you know, using the time where nobody's watching. Like we have a lot of time where nobody's watching now, which is sort of weird, right? So,
yeah.
but it's like using that time to try and sort of grind away as much as possible. So when you come out, you're in a better spot, whatever that means for you.
Exactly, man. And you said it. You said it beautifully, because that's 100% what I would agree. Is no one's gonna follow your journey, even if you're posting. Like no one knows exact. Like I should mention, I post a lot, and you commend me for that, like keeping it consistent. And a lot
Yeah.
of people have lately. Obviously I have the time, with circumstances that I'm in, but I also don't take it for granted. I use that as best as I can to get my brand out there, to get exposure, and like I said, meet people like yourself. Right? That's why we connected. I think I was posting a lot, and I remember you like reaching out and saying, "Hey, man, like, what have you been up to? We should chat. We should catch up." But at the same time, as much as I'm posting, it's not an exact replication of my life. It doesn't show you everything that's happening behind the scenes. It doesn't show you the stresses or the energy or the late nights or the weekends that I'm working, putting out the stuff. You just see one post for that day, that took 2 seconds to post, but you don't see like the amount of time that put into it. And I think it's like, even for yourself, man, like anyone that's a creative, anyone that's putting stuff out there, don't get too caught up, what they're putting out there and what they're posting. Like obviously support them, be inspired by them, but don't let it take away from what you're doing, especially if you know in your heart you're working at it. You don't need to post to show that you're doing something. But you also don't need to prove anything. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Like you're grinding it out. And I'll give you an example. Like Eric. Eric doesn't post as much as he does, as much as I do, but he is a hustle. No,
I
but
haven't posted in years, man. It's
I haven't
hilarious.
posted in years. You only did one post today, which is kind of funny. It was like entrepreneurship. Congratulations again. You finished a course on leadership. Yeah, there you go. Okay, I was making sure that I didn't read it from someone else, another Eric, because I haven't seen you post in so long, right? So just want to make sure on that. But yeah, congratulations on that. And my point being is that it doesn't matter, because I know that side of you, and I know that you hustle and you grind harder than a lot of filmmakers that I know. And it doesn't need to be always documented. You just need to know for yourself that you're putting in the time and you're killing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not trying to I don't really care that much about like posting. You're
Yeah.
brilliant because you're not just posting, but you're promoting,
Hmm.
right?
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's like there's a big difference, like for me, there's nothing out right now, and I'm just grinding away. And
Yeah.
like I don't have as acute of a voice as you do in regards to things that I really want to put out there, right?
Right.
I
Right.
rather just not. You know what I mean?
No, I know. I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah.
But for you, you're promoting the podcast, you're promoting the way you feel. You have a brand to promote, and your ideals is like, you as Daniel are like tied into the brand, right? So you have to sort of keep that going, and the
Exactly.
things you sort of feel and the way like what your brand is based on is so it's such a sort of like powerful message that you got to keep enforcing it, and you do a
Keep the
great
dream
job of
alive,
that.
man.
Yeah.
That's my message, right? And how do you keep the dream alive? You just constantly be promoting, be
Keep posting.
creating, right? Keep posting. Yeah, there you go. Keep posting, bro. You're die. The dream will die. No, man. I'm so happy that's coming across. That's exactly how I want it to come across. I never want it to be an annoyance, like, why are you posting this? And like, he's seeking attention. I want it to be more like, first of all, I have a heck of a time doing it, as exhausting as it could be sometimes. I really enjoy having these conversations and putting it out there and talking about my artworks and doing my artworks. Like, I enjoy it. Like, that's my passion. I love being creative.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also love the idea of, and knowing that I'm inspiring people, yourself, contacts in the industry, people that, again, new friends that I've made because of my posts, film festivals, I should mention, smaller ones, just reaching out and saying like, wow, this is really cool. And, a film festival today, the Roma Short Film Festival was like, it's a festival that I submitted Beautiful to. Um, I got an official selection. They replied to one of my podcast clips about the value of branding, and I was discussing like giving people marketing tips because my buddy asked me on the podcast,
Right.
and I just replied back like, thank you so much, and they're like, you're so nice, and I'm just like, thank like, okay, but they don't probably, people probably don't respond back, or they don't, they ghost. But for me, it's more like it's just creating a community, creating a foundation. And I studied marketing and I know how vital it is. That's probably why you see me so obsessive about posting and things like that. And I also try to get away from that notion of posting for the sake of it. I used to be so caught up like, oh, take a picture of me against this hedge, and then I'm going to post it, change the filter. I'm going to say like, put a lyric of Drake in the caption. Not that I did. I'm just throwing it and making fun of some
I
people.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But no, I turned it around and I said, no, no, no. In order to get this 94 productions out there, in order to get my vision, my brand, I need to start putting stuff that I want to talk about, that I speak from the heart. And Corner Talks, for instance, I'll give you an example. Like, gets average about 10 views, right? I wish it was more, but I also can't complain. I have a lot of people that I'm very grateful for viewing it, for supporting it, but I'm not going to change anything about it because everything I say on it is real. I don't script it. I write my notes down, but it's coming from the heart. And I truly believe in my heart, I really truly believe this, Eric, that if you really are authentic, your audience will find you, and the market will decide if you're meant for bigger and greater things. You can't mess with that. You can't scam it. You can't buy it. The market will decide. Human beings will decide at the end of the day, not the economics. So I'm just looking forward to that, man. And that's kind of like a goal. That's what keeps me busy. That's what keeps me kind of consistent with my posts. Is I just seeking my audience, seeking my market. And that's why I think it's so important we have these conversations, buddy, is because when we get to that level of, we're creating even more bigger projects, more complex projects, I want the original audience, the audience that's been following us, to be like 2 million strong, even more. Like, you know what I mean? Like that initial kind of market where you can say, I already have a foundation. I already have these people that support it. You know what I mean? And it really helps with funding, with networking and things like that. If they see that people follow your content, your brand as it is, so many people now, with depending on their followers, they get acting roles, they get directing roles. So I think it's so important that we take advantage of marketing nowadays. And like you said, man, you're busy at the moment creating that content, but I know there will be a time naturally, because you have that intention of putting your stuff out there and, getting your stories known, right? And that's the first step is the film festival, like you were saying. Once things hopefully settle down, you can have that opportunity. getting your cast, your crew, and networking and talking to people that are like-minded.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So a lot of great tips on that. And, I'm happy we have these conversations, especially when it comes to staying creative, staying busy during isolation. I'm always curious, I'm just genuinely curious, like how are people keeping busy? Because I know what I'm doing. I'm just curious, well, how are people doing? And I learn from them, right? But it's really refreshing. And I thank you for saying that I'm not the only one where like the structure. Because as creative, it's like I don't know if people are like, yeah, I just got to take it as it is. Like you got to deal with curveballs. But I like that you get a little bit irritated where it's like, hey, like if I'm gonna do this, I want to work towards like a deadline. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it's so I think it's commendable, man. And that's what I mean about having like the artistic side, but you need to have the business side. You need to have that business acumen.
The film
Uh
business, buddy,
the film
you gotta
business, buddy,
provide.
right?
Come on.
The
Yeah.
film business. I learned it firsthand when I started printing those NDAs.
Gotta
um,
NDAs.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I just want to know also like I know we're not God, I know we can't predict what's gonna happen, but what are your thoughts as creatives? Like, do you think it's going to get better for us, or do you think it's going to be more challenging with between the vaccinations and the lockdowns?
Like talking in the next few months, is that what you're asking? Or like what
Next
do you
few months, or maybe by the end of the year, like how do you where do you see the industry going? Like, do you see it changing or?
I don't know, man. It's a great question because it's such a weird spot for, especially for people like us who are
Yeah,
like, we're not, working on the big productions in the city.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's not, the industry is in a good spot if you want to go work on a set, like, a big union set or whatever, right?
100%.
But it's not like it's in the worst spot it's been in a long time if you're trying to get something started up,
No,
sort of like in
100%.
line. So I don't know. It's a weird place right now because my mindset for a long time was like, hopefully by fall 2021, things will be sort of in a state of somewhat semi normal that we can go back to being creative without all the hindrances.
Are you? I'll just like boil it down then. Are you like optimistic at the
No,
very least? No,
no,
eh?
I don't think we're going to be back to then by not by September, anyways.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. By the fall 2021, you were saying like predicted. Yeah,
I don't know.
initially.
Every day I get more and more pessimistic
Yeah,
about it,
yeah, yeah,
because I don't know. I I would love to be going in fall, and I'm going to be ready to go
yeah,
when fall comes. Whether or not we go or not, that's a different. But if you're asking me what I personally think, I'm
yeah,
sort of feeling like hopefully by the end of the year things will be in a state where we'll be in a better state. I think the situation's getting worse right now.
yeah.
But I do think we're on the dawn of it getting better. Because there's the vaccines and then there's the variants, and sort of like by like putting in the lockdown, we're trying to give the vaccines enough time to get even some.
Eventually, yeah. Well,
You know,
eventually, there's going to be a cut. There's going to be a cutoff, right? And it's going to be they're going to push past the threshold. Right now, we're just making up for a lot of wasted time or delayed time, vaccines and all this crap that we have to hear all the time on the news with the poor the rate vaccines that are being administered, the slow rate. But yeah, I know what you mean, man. And that's why I asked that. That's why I said I know we're not God, right? Is even me. If you ask me that question, I have no idea. I'm optimistic in the sense that I know in my heart um, things will get better, or things will at least just go back to not the way it was before the pandemic, but just I mean like life will go on. I just know that. Call me I'm just like mature about it. Like eventually, that's why you see me working so hard, like trying to build as much as I can in this time, is because I know that one day it's going to be like a commonplace of, yeah, everyone's going back to work. Like, what are you doing? Like, or everyone's out of the house, or everyone's like doing stuff. Like, the people that are sleeping right now, the people that are just like, now just watching Netflix all day. It's like that rude awakening's coming. Like this pandemic wasn't brutal enough to just shut down the world. Uh, it will be back to normal very, I don't know, very soon, but eventually. And I think it's just important to factor that in.
here's a
Um,
question: do you think
yeah.
summer?
So
What do you think about summer? Because like last summer in
such an awkward.
Ontario,
I know.
where we are, it was like the cases got down to almost like 100 cases, and it was, I think I took that time for granted, but like it was almost as though it was almost a normalized situation in a sense, and we were doing so good. Do you think this summer the cases will go back down, or do you think we're going to have to be sort of in this continued battle into the summer?
I've been hearing crazy crap, like crazy situations of, the lockdowns might even reach the summer, or the cases, or it might be what won't get better till the fall. I don't know. I just read a whole bunch of different articles. Who knows what's credible anymore? But with my opinion, uh, I think the summer will possibly be. I don't know if it'll be 100 cases a day, but I think it's going to be something like a 500 to 1,000 cases a day situation. It's not going to be crazy out of control. And the reason why I say that is because people are going to be outside more. It's going to be not going to be in enclosed areas. People will be vaccinated more. But at the same time, I don't think we're going to be completely free, because I don't think people factor in the fact that there are those that are still skeptical about the vaccine. There are those that flat out will not take it. There are many people that I talk to that I'm even taken back, because like their personality, those people that it's like, nah, who cares, whatever about anything else, but it's like, no, no, the vaccine, no, no, I'm not taking, I don't trust it. Now again, things might change, opinions might change, maybe they'll be forced. I believe that there's a compulsory requirement coming, whether you like it or not. I just know how the government works, that they're going to try to find a way to, you know what I mean, to get everyone vaccinated.
Oh, man.
But yeah, man, I don't know. It's hard to tell, man. The summer, I can see it being much easier than it is now. That, again, personal opinion, but I feel it, because summer in Canada, like everyone's out, everyone's doing stuff. But I don't think it's going to be like last summer. Last summer was an anomaly, in my opinion. I think we took it for way too much for granted. I think the whole country got too excited, and that's why we're in this situation. Because I remember shooting in August, and we still wore masks, we still did protocols. But I was a bit lenient too, like especially when we were outside. Obviously, I'm not going to wear a mask outside, but you know, I just the proximity. It's hard enough as a director. You got to like tell your actors how to pose and how to position a frame and things like that. But I'm saying now, right? You see how I was talking about 2 masks. I'm going to keep my distance, bring sanitizers on site. That's because of the dire situation. But last year when I was shooting that short film, it was in my mind, but it wasn't. And I think I just got carried away. I took it for granted. And I was fortunate enough to not, hurt myself or hurt my family when I came home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't see it being that clean. For the states, yeah, maybe the United States, because they've been accelerating with their vaccines. Uh, but people don't realize, like, because I know a couple people that they got vaccinated first dose, and they still got it. Obviously, they didn't die from it because, thank God for the vaccine, but you can still get it, and you can still get severe symptoms, and you can pass it on, because they ended up passing it to their family members. So that's another entirely different conversation, where it's like, just because we're vaccinated, like how how much are we going to eradicate it? So it's very tough. My biggest thing, man, is I want to get these productions that have life to them out of the way. I want to get them done, because I know how critical it is to organize another shoot, get everyone on board for the next time. You know what I mean? So that's just my kind of mission, is the ones that I can do, the ones that I can execute on, especially if they're like a 3-4 page script, because that's the one, by the way, that got canceled.
Right.
It's like, like I could just, like, if I just give me an afternoon, give me a day, and I'll do it, and then you don't have
Yeah.
to hear from me again, and I'll just edit it while we're in lockdown. You know what I mean? And that's exactly, by the way, what happened with my last short film, Cracked. Like, I shot it last summer,
Yeah.
in August, in the month of August, and then when the second wave came, I was editing it. So when we were in lockdown, I was just editing. We didn't have to do shoot, whatever. Like, it was perfect timing. So count the blessings. Gotta pray to the gods.
I'll just keep on praying. I think that's the strategy for me, and we'll see how
Yeah, man.
see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll be fine, man. Like I said, I'm optimistic. I think as long as we're hustling, as long as we have good intentions, and as long as we're doing our due diligence, right? What more can you do? Like, the people that get it, or the stories that I've heard, I strongly believe, because they say it time and again, you won't get it 100% if you wear a mask and you properly distance yourself, right? So it's like, these people that are getting it, these stories that you hear, maybe there's those situations, like with anything, they touch surfaces, or they're not being mindful of the mask. But I really do believe that they're close contact, or they're not wearing the mask, or they're getting a little bit too touchy. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't believe that if you like think about not one, but two masks. If you're telling me I'm wearing two masks, I could still get it. Knock on wood.
Right.
I don't know. Do you believe that, man? Like, if you're rocking two masks?
I don't. I'm rocking a solid N95 mask and just staying the hell away from people.
He's wearing the gas mask from Chernobyl.
Yeah, I'm like, I got my hazmat suit, and I'm like, I'm ready to go, dude. You know,
There you go.
it's
The
the
next
end of the world, and I'm ready, dude. It's the
Eric's like the next to be safe. The next few productions are just going to be around Chernobyl. You just suddenly get obsessed. So all the people that show up have to wear the suits, like the
It's
actors
exactly
too.
right.
You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like, it's just an excuse to make content, but at the same time, you're being safe.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
It's, I've invested in four, uh, $500,000 protective armor suits that everyone will be wearing in turn on the set. And it's good. Solves all my
After this,
problems, dude.
after filmmakers listening to this podcast, you hear on the news, they're like,
I'm
Chernobyl.
kidding. I'm kidding,
Chernobyl,
everyone.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but Chernobyl remakes have been coming out of control ever since the pandemic. Why is that?
Why
Yeah,
is that?
we put everyone in a hazmat suit. Film it. Like, I feel like Chernobyl didn't get justice. Like the story that was told.
They're like the producer said it was a good idea.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. But
So yeah, dude.
yeah, I think HBO. You know, they killed it with that show, so no one can touch it.
Absolutely, it was a great show.
But anyway, man, a great conversation like always. I'm so happy we had this time to talk. Catch up. A lot going on, man. A lot going on, and it's kind of satisfying in a way. I'll be honest. Like, I'm not the only one going through it. I thought I was like the person, like, oh, I shouldn't have pulled that plug. And when you told me no, in the same situation, I'm like, okay, we're the film industry. You know what I mean? It's not just we're in this together, as we said from
You
the
did the right
beginning.
thing.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
But we're still planning. I don't know if we'll be shooting by the time this thing is published, but we got some things in our sights. And I think it's just about, like I said, being, as long as you're being safe and you're following protocols, you should be fine. So having said that, man, really appreciate this conversation. Can't wait to do more. Talk about, just document our journey. Document us filmmakers and our experience with this pandemic. Everything that's going on.
Yeah, dude, it's
Right,
been my
man.
pleasure. I'm really excited for the next couple months, see what they hold for us, and yeah, lots of
Yeah, man.
conversations. Yeah,
Hopefully we can get back out there and kill it, right? But you it's our time will come. That's all I gotta say.
I agree.
All right, man.
My pleasure.
Thank you again. Thank you again, Eric Tomj, for coming on the podcast. Thank you again, everyone, for listening, and we'll talk soon.